I never expected a single swipe to rearrange the bones of my life. At 23, I was barely holding things together. Part-time shifts at a late-night deli, lectures I sometimes slept through, rent that felt like a fist around my throat. My parents were a memory of arguments and silence. My sister had moved overseas. I had a tiny room above a bakery in Newtown and a roommate, Zoe, who flirted with danger like it was a hobby. When my roommate Zoe joked one night, "Just get a sugar daddy, Ivy. Half the girls I know already do." I laughed, but later, lying in bed scrolling through Tinder, I couldn't ignore how easy the idea sounded. I laughed then, the kind of laugh that never reached my eyes. Still, alone in bed, I scrolled through profiles until a message popped up from Victor Hawthorne. He was 50, he said, but the photos were of a man who might have aged on set. Tailored coats, a silver widow's peak, and eyes that were far too precise. His bio, collector of rare things, looking for a companion who understands beauty. His message appeared a heartbeat after I swiped yes. "Hello, Ivy. Your photo of an honesty I rarely see. Would you allow me to show you dinner?" He wrote like someone who expected the world to fall into place. I told myself it was harmless. I needed the money. I wanted to feel wanted. The restaurant was one I'd only read about in columnists' feeds. Chandeliers, linen that smelled of strangers' wealth. Victor stood as I entered with a movement so practiced it could have been choreographed. He kissed my hand with an old-fashioned courtesy and ordered a bottle I couldn't have named. He listened. He spoke about art, the way other people spoke about weather, with certainty and an impatience that made him sound important. When I fumbled a joke about my student loans, he reached across and set a thin envelope between us. "For a month's rent," he said. "Come to the gallery Saturday. There's something you should see." The envelope had more money than I'd seen in the past 3 months. It felt like oxygen. Victor didn't pressure me for anything sexual. He called himself a patron. He invited me to his townhouse in Paddington, which smelled of old paper and citrus. He taught me how to taste wine as if I'd been born with the wrong tongue, took me to auction previews, and kept me in a net of compliments so fine I hardly noticed when they tightened. "Have you ever wanted to be preserved?" he asked once, idly, while I leaned over his library's balcony. The city below spread like a map. "I don't know what you mean," I said. "To hold something in the moment," he said, almost smiling. "To keep it from decay. There are graceful ways to keep beauty untouched." His words made me laugh in a way that was too small. There was a coldness there, a habit of looking at people as objects to be curated. Still, I stayed because it was easier than leaving. Over the weeks, I watched him move through the city like someone with keys to rooms no one else knew. He introduced me to younger women who hung on his sentences with hungry politeness. Once I saw one of them, Maya, standing by a sculpture in an off-site exhibition, her hands trembling around a glass of water. She was 19 and looked like she'd swallowed a storm. After that, I sated on Maya. I told myself I was protective. I told myself I was jealous. Victor only smiled when I mentioned her. "She's fragile," he said. "She needs someone careful." One evening, he invited me to a small gathering at the townhouse. Zoe had gone out of town, and I almost declined. But the money, the easy warmth of being chosen, won. The other guest was Maya. She smiled at me with lips that didn't reach her eyes. The party was quiet, the three of us sliding between conversation that was polite and pitched. Victor suggested a tour of his private rooms, a part of the house he kept locked for collectors. The basement, he called it, where old things were kept in air that smelled like cedar and winter. When we reached the door, the mood changed. The light was flat. Maya was pale, and for the first time, I noticed that she flinched at his touch. "I want to show you what preservation looks like," Victor said, gentle as a teacher. "You'll understand." I blinked, confused, and then he stabbed Maya. Her scream was muffled as his hand clamped over her mouth. Blood sprayed against the polished floor. My body froze, my lungs locked. When she didn't stir, panic carved a tunnel through me. Victor's face went unreadable. He said quietly that accidents happened and that we needed to handle it so the police didn't turn the house inside out for months. He spoke as if he were arranging flowers. I wanted to run, to scream, but my legs betrayed me. Instead, I helped. I don't remember why. Maybe fear, maybe shock, maybe his control over me was stronger than I ever admitted. I helped him drag Eva's body, helped clean the blood. Afterwards, Victor poured me wine and sat across the table with an expression like a verdict. "You understand why I do this?" he asked. "To keep things pristine, to free them from vulgar endings." 2 nights later, the police came. Someone in the building had heard screaming, or maybe seen us with a door shut too tightly. I never learned who. I remember the bright uniforms, the questions, my voice quavering when they asked where I'd been that night. Victor spoke smoothly, with names and alibis and the practiced ease of a man who had rehearsed an explanation. He looked at me once in court, a small, almost tender glance, and it felt like being felt. Newspapers made a monument of the story. Victor Hawthorne, collector, charged with manslaughter. Maya, the missing student. They called me a companion to a suspect, a witness, a person who might have more to say. The cameras looked through me as if I were glass to be tested. At the trial, I learned to speak in short sentences. At night, I learned to listen for my own footfalls in the apartment, to catalog the times I had been led and the times I had consented. Victor's lawyers painted him as eccentric, a man fascinated by mortality. His eyes, when he glanced at me across the courtroom, said something different: ownership, amusement, and an inch of threat. After the verdict, after the press left, and the house was sealed for evidence, I found myself sitting on the curb outside the building, watching strangers pass. Everyone assumed I was damaged in ways I could not fully explain. Sometimes I think I was. Sometimes I think I was merely tired. Sometimes I still open the message that started it, the casual, elegant request to meet, and the words look like an invitation written in a language I did not understand. "Would you allow me to show you dinner?" they say, and I try to tell myself the truth, that I'd been hungry for much longer than one night could fix, and that hunger makes people do things they don't recognize later. I don't know if I was his victim or his accomplice. I only know what the nights taught me, how easily terror could be folded into civility, how a polished hand can press the sharpest things into your palm while you count your blessings. The choice, in the end, felt like a paper I'd signed without opening. And in quieter moments, when rain makes the pavement shine like a gallery floor, I still feel the memory of his voice telling me why he believed he was right, and the small, unbearable twist when someone you let look after you decides you are an object he will keep, whether you agree or not. The St. Catherine's Sacred Heart Church in Kolkata is not only a place of worship, but also a dormitory for young nuns, girls who have renounced all worldly luxuries to serve God. After a few years of training, the nuns are sent to churches affiliated with the Sacred Heart Society. On the last Friday night of March, the prayer session took place in a solemn atmosphere. Mother Superior Agatha introduced a 23-year-old girl to the other nuns. This is God's special child, Helena. She will dedicate her life to God. From now on, Helena will live with us. But Helena's face was cold and deeply sad. She did not make eye contact with anyone, and when she looked at people, she showed no emotion. As soon as Mother Agatha finished her introduction, Helena quietly went back to her room. It seemed that she was not used to this environment. A heavy atmosphere surrounded her, making the other nuns feel strange from the first moment. The next morning, as the prayer began, the young nun Rina noticed Helena standing silently behind, muttering something in a strange voice, sometimes like a man, sometimes like a child. Rina shivered, trying to listen but couldn't understand. Helena avoided all eyes, as if hiding something inside her. That night, when the other nuns slept, Rina peeked through Helena's window. The sight gave her goosebumps. Helena sitting on a chair, her body twisted, her limbs knotted, her neck tilted to one side like a living doll. Suddenly, Helena turned her neck towards Rina. Her eyes were deep black. Her hair was tangled. Her teeth were black as if burned. Rina screamed, alerting Mother Agatha and the other nuns. What happened? Mother Agatha ran over in a panic. Rina pointed towards Helena's room. Mother Agatha looked through the window and was also shocked. Mother Agatha held the cross in her hand and walked towards Helena. Helena jumped off the chair and landed on the ground and started growling at Mother Agatha like a wild animal and stared at her. Suddenly, the cross slipped from her hand and fell. Immediately after, Helena's eyes turned black. Helena's fingers snapped back with a cracking sound, and Helena, like a beast, jumped on Mother Agatha and chewed the flesh on her hand. Helena stood there like a demon, clutching the flesh in her mouth, and Mother Agatha writhed in pain. After the attack, Helena turned back and sat on the chair and started muttering something in a strange voice. The sound coming from Helena's mouth was as if 2 or 3 people were talking at the same time. Hearing the cry for help, Father Dominic, who lived in the church, also came and saw Mother Agatha's condition and took her out. Everyone was shocked to see Helena in such a state. An atmosphere of fear also spread to the other girls. Father Dominic, the priest of the church, realized that this was not a normal thing. The other nuns were advised to stay away from Helena's room. He sprinkled holy water around her body, but blisters appeared on her skin every time the holy water touched her, looking like acid burns. After a while, Helena woke up and looked much weaker than before, moaning in pain. She barely had enough strength in her body to sit up. Her face was completely withered. Her body seemed to have collapsed. Seeing Helena's condition, Mother Agatha laid her down on the bed in the room. "Oh my God, she looks so bad. Let her rest here. The holy water will heal her." The next 2 days passed in absolute silence. Helena lay in bed, not eating or drinking anything, not speaking at all. After 2 days, she asked for water in broken words. At her mother's insistence, Helena was given water. Helena now looked a little more normal. It seemed that whatever evil spirit had really left her was now gone. Seeing Helena in such a state, Mother Agatha gently stroked her head. Do you want something to eat? Helena nodded in agreement, and then, after many days, Helena ate her fill. She kept eating, as if she had been hungry for countless years. As time passed, Helena's eating speed and eating style changed. Helena's entire mouth was numb from eating. After eating, Helena began to look a little different. Once again, her eyes began to change, and she began to mumble in a strange language. She said, speaking in different languages. Whatever she was doing at the moment was beyond her control. Before anyone could do anything, Helena had returned to normal. It was as if she had no idea what had just happened. Helena's behavior was becoming more and more bizarre with each passing hour. Mother Agatha and Father Dominic realized that they had exceeded their ability to deal with Helena. Helena would have to stay here until Friday, after which only Father Edmund could do anything. After a few days, Helena became extremely violent, screaming and making many voices at the same time. 3 days later, on Friday, Father Edmund arrived, and late at night, after everyone had gone to bed, the exorcism began. The deliverance began. Helena was tied to a chair. Crosses and burning candles were placed around her, and she was sprinkled with holy water, and then Father Edmund began to chant the incantation. Helena's pupils darkened again. A devilish smile appeared on her face. Helena was speaking many languages at the same time. Sometimes a child's voice could be heard from her mouth, and sometimes a thunderous man's voice could be heard. As Father Edmund continued to chant the incantation, Helena seemed to be in a rage. Suddenly, Helena screamed loudly, and at the same time, all the candles around her went out simultaneously. And then Father Edmund saw the ground between the cross and Helena crack. Helena screamed in horror. Her screams became so loud that no one could bear it. Suddenly, Helena's body began to stiffen violently, and at the same time, Mother Agatha's eyes also turned pitch black. "Come on, leave me alone. I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything," Mother Agatha said in a scary voice. A year ago, Helena had experienced a tragic event. She was the victim of a family murder during an ancient ghost-worshipping ritual. At that time, an evil spirit and demon summoned from the ritual possessed Helena, causing her to be haunted since she was young. Helena was lucky to survive, but the demon spirit still followed her, making her always feel like someone was watching and emitting strange mumblings. Hearing this truth, everyone understood that guilt and despair were the reasons why the demons possessed Helena, and that she did not naturally become ferocious. Father Edmund continued the ritual, sprinkling holy water continuously, chanting the incantation. Helena screamed violently, her body stiffened, her eyes turned black, and a ghostly smile appeared. Every time the holy water touched her, blisters appeared, but the power of the incantation gradually suppressed the demonic force. Finally, Helena fell down, exhausted but still alive. Helena was taken to the hospital to recover. Her face and body were withered, but her soul was saved. Father Edmund said that this was the most important exorcism in the dormitory, and everyone who witnessed this event shuddered to remember it forever. St. Catherine's Church closed for a while to return to peace, but the memory of Helena and the demonic force that possessed her still haunted the nuns and priests, causing them to lose sleep every night. Helena continued to be closely monitored, and her story became a living horror legend in St. Catherine's dormitory.
It's true, I am nervous. But why should you think I am mad? The disease has sharpened my senses, not destroyed them. It has only made me more acute. I hear things better than anyone else. In fact, I hear things that others cannot hear. And it is because of these heightened senses that I know I'm not mad. Listen, and I will tell you how everything happened. It began with the old man's eye. He had the eye of a vulture, pale blue, with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. It was a cursed eye, one that filled me with disgust and dread. I couldn't bear it. I tried to ignore it, but no matter how hard I tried, that eye would haunt me. Every time I looked at him, there it was, unblinking, staring at me with that ghastly, lifeless gaze. So, I made a plan. For 7 nights, I watched him. Every night, at midnight, I would creep into his room. He slept soundly, his eye closed, so I was safe. But on the 8th night, everything would change. I knew it would be the last night, the final night when I would rid myself of the eye forever. The night came. I prepared myself. I was calm, perfectly calm. I could feel my heart beating steadily, quietly. It was the beating of a man in control. I waited in the darkness, and I watched the old man. I crept up to his bed, making sure not to make a sound, not to stir him. The moonlight seeped through the window, casting an eerie glow on the room. The old man was sleeping, unaware of me. But then, as I stood there, waiting, his eye opened. It was the vulture's eye, the damned eye, and it was fixed on me. A rush of blood surged through my veins. My heart thumped wildly in my chest, but I remained still. I had waited so long for this moment. The eye was open, and I had to act. I couldn't let it stare at me any longer. I crept closer, and I could hear my breath, shallow and ragged, as I neared the bed. The old man didn't stir, but his eye, it seemed to follow me. It was as though it knew what I was about to do. The eye became more intense, and I could feel it watching me, seeing me, even though I stood still. I had waited long enough. I struck. With a single movement, I smothered him. The old man struggled, but he couldn't fight back. I held the cloth over his face, and after a few moments, he fell still. His body lay there limp. I had done it. I had silenced the eye forever. For a moment, I was victorious. The room was silent, but then the noise started. It was faint at first, a small, barely perceptible sound. I stopped breathing, trying to listen closely. The sound grew louder, quicker, louder still. It was his heart. His heart was still beating. The heart, still alive inside his chest, pounding as though it refused to die. I froze. It grew louder. I could hear it above the sound of my own breath. Thump, 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 thump. It echoed through the room, shaking my very bones. How could it be? He was dead. I had killed him. But the heart, why could I still hear it? Thump, 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 thump. I felt myself growing desperate. I was losing control. The sound, it would never stop. It was driving me mad. Then I heard footsteps. Someone was coming. My heart raced even faster. I couldn't bear it. I couldn't let anyone find out. The sound, his heart, it was too much. I had to act. I quickly moved to cover up my crime. I took the old man's body, chopped it into pieces, and buried him under the floorboards. The sound of his heart grew even louder as I worked, but I ignored it. I had to get rid of the evidence. The footsteps grew louder. Someone was at the door. But the beating, I couldn't stop it. I had to keep calm. I had to appear innocent. When the police arrived, I greeted them with a smile. I acted as though everything was fine. I invited them in, and we sat in the very room where the murder had taken place. But the sound, his heart, was still there pounding in my ears. Thump, 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 thump. The walls seemed to be vibrating with the noise. I watched the officers. They were searching, questioning, moving about the room, but they didn't hear it. They didn't hear the heart. They didn't hear what was tearing me apart. The noise became unbearable. It filled my mind, my soul. I couldn't stand it anymore. I couldn't pretend any longer. I screamed. I did it. I killed him. I buried him under the floorboards. I hear his heart. I hear it beating. I cried, my words tumbling out in a wild, frantic confession. The officers looked at me, confused. But the noise had stopped. I had confessed, and in that moment, the weight of the truth crushed me. I had heard the heart all along, and now I would never escape it.
Some houses are built from wood, brick, or concrete. Others are built from memories. and promises made in blood. This one had 7 rooms, but on the night she turned 28, an 8th appeared. Sarah lived in a Victorian townhouse passed down from her grandmother. Creaky, ancient, but full of character. There were 7 rooms, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 1 kitchen, 1 attic, 1 basement, 1 sitting room, and 1 locked storage room she was told never to open. On the night of her 28th birthday, Sarah woke up to find a new hallway at the back of the house. At the end of it, a door she had never seen before. It had no handle, only a dark knothole in the center, faintly pulsing like a heartbeat. Searching the attic, Sarah found a hidden box of her grandmother's belongings. Inside was a leather-bound journal written in looping cursive. Its pages were filled with runes, moon phases, diagrams of the house, overlaid with something that wasn't there. The final pages were smeared in dry blood. One sentence repeated, "Do not open the 8th room until it calls you by name." That night, the door whispered. Sarah, the door opened. Behind the door, a spiral staircase leading downward, deeper than the house should allow. She descended for what felt like hours. The air grew, then hot, then wet. The walls pulsed, as if they were breathing. Voices began to hum in unison, a low, harmonic chant from no clear direction. At the bottom, she found a perfect replica of her living room, but it was covered in soot and ash. In the center sat a mirror, and in the mirror, not her, but someone wearing her face, smiling too wide. The reflection spoke. "We were promised your skin. You are the last of your blood." Suddenly, invisible hands dragged Sarah into a circle of symbols. Her body began to stretch, limbs pulled in 7 directions. A deep hum shook the room. 7 doors appeared around her. Each door creaked open. Inside, twisted versions of Sarah, broken, altered, screaming. They crawled toward her. She screamed back, but the reflection stepped out of the mirror. It crawled forward, slow, deliberate, and tore its own face off, then wore hers. Sarah's body went limp. Her mind sank beneath the surface. The next morning, neighbors saw Sarah outside, waving politely. She seemed cheerful, calm, but at night, they saw her again. 2 of her, one walking through the hall, the other inside the mirror, watching. The 8th room had vanished again, but when guests visited, they sometimes heard footsteps behind a wall, in a room that didn't exist. Some claimed they heard their own names whispered. Eventually, the house was sold. The new owners never found anything unusual until one night, their daughter woke them, crying. The lady with the same face as Mommy said, "I'm the next one." When they asked where she saw the woman, she pointed down the hallway to a door with no handle. It wasn't there yesterday, but tonight it's waiting.
2 years ago, I moved to Texas with my best friend and roommate, Sarah. We rented a small, cozy apartment on the outskirts of town. I've always had a fascination with dolls, not the plastic kind, but those beautiful porcelain antiques. To me, they weren't creepy, they were comforting. So, on my birthday, when Sarah handed me a delicately wrapped box, I was thrilled. Inside was the most stunning doll I had ever seen. Her skin was pale porcelain, smooth except for a faint hairline crack under her right eye. She had cascading auburn curls and the most hauntingly vivid blue eyes I'd ever seen, eyes that glistened like glass but somehow felt alive. I was in awe. "I saw her in an antique shop and immediately thought of you," Sarah smiled. I named her Hazel. She took her place of honor on my nightstand, facing my bed. At night, her eyes reflected the soft light of my lamp. They sparkled, almost too much. In the beginning, everything felt fine. Hazel added charm to my room, and I found her presence oddly comforting. But that comfort began to sour within a week. It started small. My phone charger would be unplugged in the morning. A spoon I knew I had placed in the sink would be back on the counter. I blamed Sarah at first, thinking she was playing pranks, but she swore she wasn't. Then came the whispers. At night, just as I was drifting to sleep, I'd hear faint murmurs. Soft, female, like a lullaby sung through clenched teeth. I'd sit up, heart pounding,
but the room would be silent except for Hazel's eyes, reflecting moonlight, staring directly at me. I told myself it was stress, a trick of the ears, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger, heavier. I couldn't shake it. It followed me from room to room, especially when Hazel was nearby. One night I awoke with a start, my arm stinging. When I turned on the light, there were 3 long, thin scratches running down my forearm. I checked the sheets, my nails, even under the bed. Nothing. But Hazel, who normally sat upright, had slumped forward, her face turned toward me, mouth slightly agape. The next morning I found strange symbols drawn in soot on the mirror. Circles within circles, lines like thorns twisting into runes. I wiped them away quickly, refusing to acknowledge the fear spreading in my chest. That day I went to see Father Thomas at the small Catholic church down the road, a kind older man with tired eyes. When I explained what was happening, he grew silent. "Camila," he said gravely, "some objects carry spiritual residue, negative energy. They can become vessels, homes for things that should not walk this world." He offered to cleanse the apartment and banish whatever was attached to the doll, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't give up Hazel. She was a gift from Sarah, a symbol of our bond. So I politely declined. That night the whispers returned, louder, clearer. I heard my name spoken with a breath that wasn't mine. "Kama, help me." I froze. My entire body went numb. Hazel sat in her usual place, but her head had turned slightly. I was sure of it. Her eyes gleamed unnaturally in the dark. Still, I didn't scream. I didn't run. Instead, I replied, "What do you want?" There was no answer, but something shifted. The air grew colder. My breath fogged up. Hazel's eyes seemed to soften for a moment. I told myself I was imagining it, but deep down I knew I wasn't. From then on, I began speaking to her. Every night, whispered conversations in the dark. I told her about my fears, my childhood, my dreams. I shared things I had never even told Sarah. In return, Hazel never moved, never answered again. But she listened. I could feel it, and I felt connected. But the deeper our connection grew, the darker the apartment became. The lights flickered constantly. Cold spots would appear in corners. Sarah started having nightmares, screaming in her sleep. Once, she woke up with a nosebleed and a bruise in the shape of a small handprint on her thigh. She asked me to move Hazel into the closet. I refused. We argued. Then one morning, I found Hazel sitting on Sarah's pillow. Neither of us had put her there. That day, Sarah packed a bag and left to stay with her sister. She never came back. Left alone, I sank deeper into Hazel's world. The symbols reappeared, carved into the wooden floor this time. The walls began bleeding, ever so faintly, around the baseboards. Not red, something darker, black, like oil. At night, I'd hear footsteps circling my bed. My reflection in the mirror would sometimes smile when I didn't. My fingernails turned brittle. My skin grew pale. I barely slept. And still I couldn't part with her. Then came the night I truly lost control. I was lying in bed, eyes closed, when something crawled onto my chest. I opened my eyes, but saw nothing. I couldn't move. It was like being pinned down by invisible hands. My chest burned, my vision blurred, and then I heard Hazel again. But this time her voice was not soft, it was desperate, screeching. "Kama, don't leave me!" I screamed. My body jerked free. I lunged for the door, but it slammed shut. The windows rattled. Hazel had fallen off the table and lay face up on the floor, smiling. Blood dripped from her porcelain lips. That was the moment I finally broke. The next day I called Father Thomas. I begged him to come. This time he brought help. 3 people in dark robes, carrying candles and vials of holy water. They set up quickly, chanting as they surrounded Hazel. The moment they began, the room changed. The temperature plummeted, the windows shattered, the floor shook. Hazel shrieked, a high-pitched sound that came from nowhere and everywhere. Her mouth opened wider than it should have, revealing a cavern of black. Father Thomas shouted ancient prayers. One of the robed women collapsed, blood pouring from her nose. The lights exploded, but still they continued. The chanting rose to a fever pitch and then silence. Hazel's body cracked, a line running straight down her face. Her eyes rolled back, and then stillness. She was gone. They sealed Hazel in a glass case, wrapped in silk with runes burned into the fabric. She was taken to a private museum that specialized in cursed objects, a place far from here, far from me. I watched them carry her away, and I wept, not from fear, but from something else, grief. Even now, months later, I can't explain it. Was Hazel truly evil, or was she just misunderstood? A spirit reaching out, confused, lonely, clinging to the only person who ever listened. My room is empty now. Peaceful, yes, but sterile. Cold, quiet. Too quiet. And sometimes, just as I'm falling asleep, I swear I hear it again. A whisper. Come on. And I wonder, did I really save myself, or did I abandon her?
Mira had always loved him. Kian Song, the rising star of the K-pop world. His voice was melodic, smooth, and rich. His smile, as if crafted by the gods themselves, lit up every stage he graced. Mira had been a fan since his debut. His every movement, every note he sang, left an indelible mark on her heart. She wasn't just another fan in the crowd. No, she believed she was different. She was special. She was the one who truly understood him. She collected everything Kian had ever touched: albums, posters, concert tickets. Her apartment was a shrine, a curated collection of his career, from his earliest days as a trainee to his present success. But the thing that had caught her most was his gaze. When Kian performed, his eyes would lock with hers, and in that brief moment, it was as if time stopped. She imagined that in those fleeting seconds, he could feel her presence. Maybe not in the way she felt it, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that he noticed her. The fans in the crowd screamed, shouted, waved light sticks. But Kian, when his gaze fell upon her, she was certain that it lingered a moment longer than necessary. It was as if there was something more. She wasn't just part of the crowd. She mattered to him. It was a cold Friday evening when she saw the tweet. Kian's agency had announced that they were holding a small exclusive fan meeting for a select group of fans. To win an invitation, you had to engage in the company's social media contest, a raffle that would select only the most dedicated fans. Mira's heart leaped in her chest. This was her chance, her moment. She stayed up all night, entering every possible form of the contest, tagging Kian's official fan pages, reposting, commenting, and sharing every possible post related to the contest. Sleep-deprived and dizzy, she finally received the notification. She was one of the lucky winners. She would meet Kian. Her hands shook with excitement as she reread the email. The details were vague, just a time, a location in Seoul, and a note about special instructions. It didn't matter. She would meet him, face to face. The day arrived faster than she could prepare for it. Mira spent hours perfecting her outfit, styling her hair, and carefully choosing the gift she would give him, a small, handcrafted music box she had spent weeks designing. She wanted to give him something personal, something that said, "I understand you." The fan meeting was held in a nondescript building, away from the bustling crowds. Mira arrived early, her heart pounding in her chest as she waited for the doors to open. Fans trickled in, all of them talking excitedly. But Mira stayed quiet, her eyes focused on the entrance, waiting for Kian to appear. When he finally stepped into the room, everything else faded away. He was even more beautiful in person. His presence was magnetic, his smile brighter than she had ever imagined. He walked down the aisle between the rows of fans, his eyes scanning the room, stopping briefly as he looked into Mira's eyes. It was brief, a passing moment, but for Mira, it felt like an eternity. The fan meeting was everything Mira had imagined. Kian answered questions, joked with the crowd, and took pictures with fans. Each time he smiled or laughed, Mira felt a part of her heart soften. This was it. This was the moment she had been waiting for. When it was her turn to meet him, she stepped forward, trembling with anticipation. The distance between them felt like an eternity. As Kian extended his hand, she placed the music box in his palm. He looked at it with a small frown, then up at her with a raised eyebrow. "You made this?" he asked, his voice smooth and warm. Mira nodded, her breath catching. "It's for you," she said softly. I thought you might like it." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Thank you. I'll keep it safe." Her heart raced as he took a photo with her. He stood too close, his hand resting on her shoulder. The photo was taken, but for Mira, time seemed to stand still. For a brief moment, she thought she saw something in his eyes. A flicker. Recognition. As if Kian was seeing her for the first time. It was nothing, she told herself. He was just being kind. But as she left the room, a strange unease began to coil in her stomach. The fan meeting ended, but Mira's obsession with Kian only deepened. That night, she replayed the moments in her mind. His smile, his touch. There was no doubt in her mind now. She was different from the others. He had noticed her, and even though it was brief, he had remembered her. Days passed and Mira found herself obsessively searching for anything related to Kian, videos, photos, fan interactions. But then one night she found something odd. It was a simple message on his fan page. "Thank you for the beautiful gift. I've been thinking about it all day." It was from Kian, but the message wasn't meant for the public. It was a private post, one directed solely at her. Her fingers shook as she typed a response. "I'm glad you liked it. I made it with you in mind." She hit send, not expecting a reply. But to her surprise, Kian responded almost immediately. "Come to the studio tomorrow night. I'll be waiting." Her heart raced. This couldn't be real. The next day, Mira followed the instructions in the message. She arrived at the studio just as nightfall set in, her breath visible in the cold air. The lights in the building were dim, and there were no signs of anyone else. Mira hesitated for a moment, but then pressed the doorbell. The door opened almost immediately. There, standing in the dim light, was Kian. His eyes were cold, but they lingered on her, unblinking. "You came," he said, voice soft but unmistakably sharp. "Good. Come inside." Mira's heart pounded as she stepped into the darkened hallway of the studio. The air was thick with the scent of incense and old leather. Kian led her down a narrow corridor, past empty rooms filled with sound equipment and recording instruments. "Do you like it here?" he asked, his voice distant, like he was testing her. "I do," Mira said, struggling to steady her voice. "I love your music. I feel connected to you, more than I can explain. He nodded slowly, his gaze never leaving her face. They reached a small, dimly lit room. A large window on one wall overlooked the city below. The entire space was eerily quiet, except for the soft hum of machines in the background. "Sit," Kian said, gesturing to a chair at the center of the room. Mira obeyed, her body trembling. Kian closed the door behind them. "You know, Mira," he began, his voice suddenly colder, more deliberate. "You're not like the other fans. They scream, they shout, they beg for my attention. But you've always been different. You've watched, haven't you? From the shadows, in silence, in silence." Mira's throat tightened. I don't understand." His eyes glinted with something dark. "You gave me the gift, the music box. It's beautiful. But you've been watching me, not just through the camera, but through everything." Mira recoiled, her hands shaking. She had been too careful, too hidden. How did he know? Kian stepped closer, his voice soft but filled with a chilling certainty. "You think I didn't notice? That I didn't feel your gaze on me all this time? You've been the one who watches me from the shadows. But now I want to see you, Mira, all of you." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small black device, a camera. Mira's heart stopped. "You wanted to be close to me, didn't you? You wanted to know me. But now I'm going to show you something." He pressed a button, and the room's lights flickered. Images appeared on the screen, one after another. Video clips of Mira from her apartment, watching him through the camera. The recordings were crystal clear. Her body froze in horror. He had been watching her. "You've been following me for so long," Kian whispered, his voice almost a lullaby. "But now you're mine. You belong to me, just like all the others." The room felt suffocating. The images on the screen were of her quiet moments, her obsessive gaze. And then the message became clear. He was not the one being watched. He had always been the watcher. Suddenly, Mira realized with a sickening twist in her stomach that she had become part of his collection, his private world. The door slammed shut behind her. Kian stepped forward, his eyes glinting with malice. "You wanted me. You watched me. Now you're here, and you will never leave." Mira's pulse pounded as she backed into the corner of the room. "What do you mean? You can't do this to me." Kian smiled darkly. "The game's over, Mira. You're not the first one to fall into my trap, but you're the one who watched the longest." He stepped closer, and this time, his voice dropped to a whisper. "And now, you will always be here."
A few years back, when I was still a teenager, my best friend Daniel and I were just a couple of broke high schoolers trying to make ends meet. So when we heard old Mr. Whitaker was looking for help cleaning out his massive estate just outside of town, we figured, why not? He was an odd figure. When we met him, he wore thick gloves, even in the summer heat, and spoke in clipped, almost rehearsed sentences. Still, he offered us $100 each per week, cash, just to dust, sweep, and clean out the house room by rooms. Seemed like a dream job. It wasn't. The house. From the outside, the house looked like something out of a forgotten century. Towering and covered in tangled ivy, its windows dark and lifeless. The front gate groaned like an animal in pain every time we pushed it open. The garden was wild, overgrown, and oddly symmetrical, as if it had once been beautiful and someone had tried and failed to keep it from dying. The first time we stepped inside, something felt wrong. The air was thick, stale. It didn't smell like dust, more like old fabric, rotting wood, and something sickly sweet beneath it all, like flowers left too long in a vase. I remember Daniel paused in the doorway. "Dude, this place gives me the creeps." I laughed it off. "Yeah, but it pays." We got to work, sweeping floors, clearing cobwebs, wiping grime off walls that hadn't seen sunlight in years. The silence of the house was oppressive. Even when we spoke, our voices sounded muted, swallowed up by the vast, decaying walls. The doll. On our third day, while cleaning what looked like an old parlor room, I spotted it. Sitting alone on a high wooden shelf was a porcelain doll. It was no bigger than a toddler, dressed in a tattered red velvet dress, its face cracked along one cheek. One of its glass eyes was cloudy, while the other was crystal clear and blue. That single eye seemed to fixate on me the moment I entered the room. I froze. "Hey, Daniel, you see this?" He walked over, squinted, and recoiled slightly. "That's the creepiest thing I've ever seen." "I hate dolls," I muttered. "Why would someone keep that thing?" We left it where it was, not wanting to touch it. But after that day, things started changing. The whispers and shadows. The first sign was the whispers. They started soft, just at the edge of hearing. At first, I thought they were drafts through the old vents. But no, these whispers had rhythm, words. They sounded like a child singing a lullaby in a language I didn't understand. Daniel heard them too. One afternoon, while mopping the hallway outside the parlor, he suddenly dropped the mop and turned pale. "What?" I asked. He stared into the shadows near the stairwell. "Something just laughed." I listened. "Nothing. You're messing with me," I said. But then I heard it too, a low, breathy giggle that echoed through the walls, and the air turned cold. I mean winter cold. Our breath began to mist in front of our faces. The next day, Daniel showed me scratches on his back. 3 long, thin marks like something had clawed him while he was scrubbing the bathroom upstairs. The moving doll. It got worse. The doll. It started to move. At first, we thought we were imagining things, but on multiple occasions we found it in different parts of the house, even though neither of us had touched it. One morning, it was sitting in a rocking chair in the upstairs hallway. The next on the piano bench in the music room. Once, it was perched at the very top of the staircase, facing downward, as if watching us. I tried to laugh it off, tried to rationalize it. "Maybe Mr. Whitaker's messing with us," I suggested. "He's old, maybe he thinks it's funny." Daniel shook his head. "He hasn't even been here since the first day. You've seen how he never enters the house." And it was true. Every day he'd unlock the gate, let us in, then vanish. The night it came alive. We should have quit. We talked about quitting, but curiosity is a stupid drug and we were hooked. On the 7th day, something happened that neither of us could explain or forget. We were finishing up late. The sky had turned orange outside. Daniel was in the kitchen and I was upstairs, collecting tools. As I turned the corner into the parlor, I stopped dead. The doll was there, standing. Not sitting, standing on the windowsill, arms stretched out, head tilted, and it turned to look at me. I screamed. Daniel came running, and when he saw it, he screamed too. And then the lights flickered, the walls groaned, the temperature dropped instantly. And from behind us, we heard footsteps, slow, dragging steps, like bare feet across wooden floors. We turned. Nothing. Then came the voice. A child's voice, soft and broken. "You shouldn't be here. Mr. Whitaker's return." We ran, or tried to, but the front door slammed shut and wouldn't budge. Daniel was banging on it when Mr. Whitaker finally burst in through the back, his face pale, eyes wide. He was carrying a small wooden box and a black vial of liquid. "Where is it?" he hissed. "Where's the doll?" We pointed. It was now seated calmly in the middle of the room, its eyes dark and hollow. Mr. Whitaker stepped forward, uncorked the vial, and poured the thick black liquid over the doll's face. He chanted in a language I'd never heard, harsh, guttural, ancient. And in the shadows of my room, just for a second, I see something small, something wearing red velvet, watching.
A small town lies under a moonless night, fog curling through empty streets. James, a young man, steps out of a diner, his breath visible in the cold air. A distant church bell tolls, its sound warped and eerie, echoing unnaturally. James walks down a dark alley, streetlights flickering, casting long shadows. A pale, bony hand darts out from the shadows, then vanishes instantly. Heavy footsteps echo behind him, growing louder, closer with every step. James turns, freezing. A cloaked figure stands under a streetlight, head bowed. The figure's hood shifts slightly, revealing a glimpse of pale skin. The nun raises her head, her face bone white, eyes black void staring blankly. James screams, sprinting away, the nun gliding after him, unnaturally fast. He reaches an abandoned church, its wooden doors slamming shut behind him. Inside, moonlight spills through broken windows, illuminating dusty pews. Whispers fill the air, like dozens of voices praying, but no one is there. A crucifix on the altar flips upside down, blood dripping from its edges. James stumbles back, tripping over an old Bible, its pages fluttering wildly. The Bible's pages stop, revealing a drawing of the nun's twisted face. The nun appears inches from James, her cracked mouth hissing a guttural sound. James bolts up a creaking wooden staircase, each step threatening to collapse. He bursts into a small room, walls covered in paintings of the nun's warped face. One painting crashes to the floor, revealing a hidden door behind the wall. James opens the door, stepping into a dark hallway lined with strange symbols. His flashlight flickers, casting jagged shadows on the carved walls. The nun appears at the hall's end, her head tilted at an impossible angle. James runs, but the hallway stretches endlessly, walls closing in around him. The nun's raspy laugh echoes, coming from every direction at once. James TR away, illuminating the nun's scarred feet. The flashlight spins, briefly showing her claws scraping the floor. He crawls to a corner, spotting an old mirror reflecting the nun behind him. James smashes the mirror, shards flying, but her laugh grows louder. He finds a staircase leading to a basement, no other way out. In the basement, faint light reveals cages filled with human bones. A cage door creaks open, its hinges screaming in the silence. The nun slithers out from the cage, her body twisting in unnatural ways. He reaches an old altar, a wooden box engraved with a cross on top. The nun's claws scrape closer, leaving gouges in the stone floor. James opens the box, finding a vial of holy water glowing faintly. He splashes the water at the nun, her scream shaking the walls as she burns. The nun dissolves into black smoke, the basement trembling violently. James sprints out as the church collapses, debris exploding behind him. He stands in the nearby graveyard, panting, believing he's safe. A pale hand bursts from the dirt, grabbing his ankle with crushing force. James screams, kicking free, stumbling back into the fog. The graveyard grows quiet, fog swallowing the church ruins. His flashlight flickers out, plunging him into total darkness. A faint whisper begins, the nun's voice chanting his name softly. A single candle flickers nearby, casting her shadow on a tombstone. The nun's face looms over him, her black eyes wide, unblinking. James runs blindly, branches snapping as he crashes through the woods. The nun glides after him, her cloak billowing like a living shadow. He trips over a root, landing face first in the dirt, gasping for air. The nun's hand reaches down, her claws inches from his face. A sudden gust of wind blows dust, obscuring her for a moment. James scrambles up, spotting a rusted gate leading out of the woods. He pushes through the gate, collapsing on the other side, exhausted. The town lies silent, no lights, no sound, as if abandoned entirely. James' hand shakes as he pulls out his phone. The screen cracked and dead. He hears a creak and turns. A door in a nearby house swings open slowly. The door's hinges groan, revealing only darkness inside. The nun's silhouette fills the doorway, her head twitching unnaturally. James bolts again, his footsteps echoing in the empty streets. The nun appears at every corner, her form flickering like a broken film. He ducks into an alley, pressing himself against a brick wall, breathless. The nun's shadow stretches across the wall, growing larger, closer. A rat scurries past, startling him, breaking the silence. Her claws graze his shoulder, leaving a burning scratch. James finds a storm drain, crawling inside, barely fitting through. The nun peers into the drain, her face distorted, mouth stretching wide. Inside, James crawls faster, water splashing, his heart pounding. He emerges in a ditch, the town now far behind, fog still thick. The nun's laugh echoes, closer than before. Her black eyes appear in the fog, staring directly at him. The screen glitches, her face flashing closer with each flicker. Darkness swallows everything, leaving only James' scream, then silence.